Well, new at noon, the Senate has now passed President Trump's massive budget bill, and Vice President J.D. Vance delivered the tie-breaking vote to pass it. President Trump is still pushing to have the bill on his desk by July 4th, but did acknowledge it could be difficult. The bill, which extends the 2017 Trump tax cuts and eliminates federal taxes on tips and overtime pay, also increases money for defense and immigration enforcement, but it cuts Medicaid spending. And the Congressional Budget Office estimates it would increase the deficit by nearly $3.3 trillion. And Republican Senator Mike Lee of Utah announced he's removing a provision from the big, beautiful bill. It would have allowed hundreds of thousands of acres of public land to be sold, and affordable housing and infrastructure would then be put in its place. Several other lawmakers say if the provision were included, they would vote against it. Well, today, President Trump is visiting the site of a new immigration detention center in South Florida. State officials are calling it Alligator Alcatraz. The controversial detention facility is located in the Everglades, and it has its own runway and an environment that's known for its treacherous terrain and wildlife. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis says it's been modified over a period of 8 days to accommodate detainees. The facility will have up to 5,000 beds to house, process, and deport people who were in the country illegally. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says it's an efficient and low-cost solution, and its location makes it secure.
There is only one road leading in, and the only way out is a one-way flight. It is isolated and surrounded by dangerous wildlife and unforgiving terrain.
Last week, environmental groups filed a lawsuit to block the opening of the facility until it undergoes an environmental review as required by federal law. Well, police have identified 20-year-old Wes Rowley as the suspect accused of killing 2 firefighters and injuring a third in a deadly shooting in Idaho. Naomi Ruckham has the latest on the suspect, the victims, and the ongoing fight to put out the flames.
The Coeur d'Alene, Idaho community lined the streets to support their local fire department after the horrific shooting that left 2 firefighters dead.
These are our neighbors and our sons and our brothers and our friends.
Those firefighters have now been identified as 42-year-old Battalion Chief Frank Harwood and 52-year-old Battalion Chief John Morrison. Firehouse engineer Dave Tisdall was also critically injured in what police are calling an ambush. They say 20-year-old Wes Rowley set the fire to lure first responders up Canfield Mountain, had contact and a brief discussion with the crews, and then started shooting over several hours, at one point shooting at authorities from within a tree.
Law enforcement, right now, there's an active shooter zone. Everybody shot up here. Law enforcement, code 3 now up here.
Investigators say it appears Rowley shot and killed himself during the exchange. They are now poring over his social media in search of a possible motive, but say at one point he had aspirations of becoming a firefighter himself. Rowley's family released a statement saying, "Our hearts and spirits are broken for the lost and hurting, and for our own loss as well." His former roommate is left in shock.
I can't believe what he did. I mean, that is an absolutely disgusting thing to do.
Authorities say the suspect used a flint starter to ignite the blaze, which is still burning in the steep terrain. Naomi Ruckham, CBS News.
Well, in other news, families are reacting to the surprise plea deal for Brian Koberger, the suspect in the stabbing deaths of 4 Idaho college students. Koberger has agreed to plead guilty, which could mean no trial and no possibility of the death penalty. Jonathan Viglotti reports.
More than 2.5 years after the murder of 4 University of Idaho students, 30-year-old Brian Koberger could be on the verge of pleading guilty. In a letter sent to those victims' families, Koberger accepted a plea deal that would keep him in prison for the rest of his life, without the possibility of an appeal or parole. We spoke to Ben Mogan, the father of victim Madison Mogan, who was relieved to receive the letter.
If you get a quick death sentence, and you don't have to spend decades thinking about how terrible you made the world.
In November 2022, Madison, along with Xana Kernodle, Ethan Chapin, and Kaylee Gonzalez, were all found stabbed to death at an off-campus home in Moscow, Idaho. Koberger was arrested several weeks later in Pennsylvania and extradited to Idaho. DNA evidence also linked him to a knife sheath found at the crime scene. I spoke with Steve Gonsalves, the father of victim Kaylee Gonsalves, earlier this year during the pretrial hearings.
You see all these people there to protect him, and you know no one was there to protect your daughter.
But in a social media post Monday, the Gonsalves family said they did not approve a plea deal, writing they were, quote, beyond furious at the state of Idaho. They have failed us. In a later statement through their attorney, they added that the victims' families had not been consulted. For Mogan's father, the plea deal is justice.
We can actually put this behind us and not have these future dates and future things that we don't want to have to be at, that we shouldn't have to be at, that have to do with this terrible person. We get to just think about the rest of our lives and have to try and figure out how to do it without Maddie and without the rest of the kids.
There are a few legal steps left. In the state of Idaho, a judge does have the authority to reject a plea deal, but it is considered incredibly rare. Jonathan Vigliotti, CBS News, Los Angeles.
The DOJ has announced the largest coordinated healthcare fraud effort in the agency's history. The department announced charges against more than 300 defendants for their alleged participation in healthcare fraud schemes. DOJ says approximately $14.6 billion in false claims were submitted to Medicare, Medicaid, and other healthcare programs.
These criminals didn't just steal someone else's money. They stole from you. Every fraudulent claim, every fake billing, every kickback scheme represents money taken directly from the pockets of American taxpayers who fund these essential programs through their hard work and sacrifice.
The DOJ also reports more than 1 million Americans had their identities stolen. Well, a new report from the Arkansas Department of Emergency Management shows more fire-related deaths so far this year than in all of last year combined. We spoke with the Rogers Fire Department about these alarming numbers. Firefighters say many deadly house fires are tied to the absence of working smoke detectors. People who have smoke detectors in their homes often fail to maintain them, a critical step that can mean the difference between life and death. Battalion Chief Chase Sutherland urges regular battery changes and practicing fire escape plans to keep families safe.
Them know where to go. Okay, we're going down the hallway. To the right is the door, going out the door. Let them know where the windows are at. Walk them through which locks will be turned on the windows. So if it's the left side, they know to reach up, unlock the left to lift the window. Just practice this stuff. So make it routine.
The new report shows 34 fire-related deaths in Arkansas so far in 2025. That's compared to 27 for all of last year. Well, police in Jacksonville, Arkansas have made an arrest in a murder case that's gone unsolved for more than 15 years. Now the family of Danik Adams finally has answers after her death in 2008. Jacksonville police announced Monday that Lavelle Calvin has been arrested in connection to Adams' murder. Adams, 18 years old at the time, was with a friend leaving a fitness center in Jacksonville when police say a man approached them with a gun, demanding their purses, cell phones, and car. Detectives say the two did as the gunman asked, but when they tried to get away, he shot and killed Adams. Chief Brett Hibbs recognized Detective Cindy Harbor for her role in the arrest. She retired in 2021, but returned part-time to continue working on this case.
Danik was pretty well known, but had a lot of friends in Jacksonville at the time of this murder, and there's a lot of people that have kept up and wanted an arrest to be made in the last 16 years, and so it's important to us to make the arrest, but also there's a lot of people that remember her, and this brings closure to her family, her friends, and those that were affected by it.
The warrant and all the court documents for this case are sealed for now, but we'll bring you any updates as the case against Calvin moves forward.